told you that the only thing keeping you from stepping into your dream life are patterns of thought you're not even aware of, which are profoundly resistant to change? Because everyone wants to manifest faster, right? Money, dream homes, vacations, relationships, healing, peace. But sometimes it feels like no matter what you do or try, still the same conditions and situations and conflicts and frustrations keep popping into your life. In this video, I'm going to show you the real reason your life is not changing as fast as you want. And you might not like it, but if you apply what I'm about to tell you, you'll break through very quickly with focus and freedom. So first, let's talk about the nature of the mind. The mind is in continual motion, and that motion is mostly repetitive and predominantly uncontrolled. It doesn't stop, it's always spinning. The past experiences and conversations and conflicts and memories and future desires and plans and goals. You worry about money and relationships, your health, your job, replaying arguments over and over again, perspectives and interpretations and strategy, right? I should have done or said this or that instead of what I did say or do, and next time I'll do or say that instead, right? Like water carving canyons over centuries, your thoughts have worn grooves into your mind. I'm sure you can immediately identify multiple things that you think about in the same way, in response to the same things all the time, usually in relationship to triggers and traumas and family dynamics, plans and dreams. These grooves become your habitual inner dialogue, and whether you realize it or recognize it or not, you are very, very attached to it. And these attachments become your reality. The Dhammapada says, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind's default is not freedom. Its default is repetition and familiarity. And familiarity is incredibly resistant to change, even if it's change that you want. So what's the solution? Anyone who knows me or who has watched my past videos probably knows what I'm about to say, right? Mental discipline, watching the mind, and a consistent practice of detachment and entering the witness perspective. Most manifestation teachings talk about visualization and acting as if the wish is already fulfilled, but the true accelerator, the real fuel, is mental discipline. Getting into the obsessive habit of watching the mind and either shifting it, redirecting it, reconditioning it, or detaching from it altogether. Not in a rigid, rejecting kind of way, but in a devotional way. Because the mind is actually quite silly and ridiculous. And once you make your mind your friend and you're able to detach from its antics and can watch it without getting involved and being triggered, it can be redirected. Now, I know some of you might be triggered by this because, yes, I understand that the mind can sometimes be terrorizing and seem like way out of control, especially if you're upset about something. So in these instances, you take baby steps and or detach, right? You become a detached witness. That's really the key. It does take a gentle and fierce love and attention that knows when to intervene and when to step back. A consistent and determined persistence can redirect the mind and shift where your attention flows over and over and over again, right? Because since where your attention flows, energy goes, you need to practice discernment in when and how you engage with your thought streams and how much attention you pay to them, right? Because the sages say the mind is like a drunken monkey stung by a scorpion, and yet it can be trained. And it is highly advised that you start, if you haven't already, to train your mind through meditation. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not about controlling every single thought, okay? That's not really possible. It's about catching yourself when you notice that you've tumbled down into the patterns, the repetitive default pathways, and gently interrupting them, ideally with a smirk. So let me give you an example. You notice the same conversation, same interpretation, same excuse, same reaction, whatever it might be, or however it might be appearing, coming into your mind. So you pause, and then you redirect it. Okay, there's that thing again, that story, that reaction, that feeling, that interpretation rabbit hole that I just got pulled into again. I can watch myself having those thoughts, and I can have the resulting feelings, right? I can feel the feelings, but I also know that there is an infinite world of possibility, and I don't need to keep spinning out that same story again and again. I catch myself doing this, and I'm like, you're doing it again, Melissa. You're playing out that old paradigm again, that same interpretation that results in more of what you don't want. Do you really need to go through that again? How many times do you have to have the same conversation again in your head? Right? And this is where detachment comes in. That's the old story. I'm not interested in that old story anymore. Even though it is so very tempting to stop exerting effort and just head on down that old familiar path. Instead, you say to yourself, like, I'm writing a new story now. What do I want to be true instead? How would I prefer things to go? How do I want reality to play out? And now steep yourself in that, okay? How important is it that we develop the skill of detachment and stepping into the role of the witness? Very. Because to change your thoughts, you must first see them and dislodging yourself enough from their grip to be able to enter into the detached witness state. We always want to get involved, right? The part of you that watches and notices what is being thought by the mind, but doesn't engage with or encourage the thought, that's the key, right? You aren't participating in the thought. You're not getting involved in it. You're simply seeing it and noticing it and recognizing it. Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras says, the witness is the pure seer, untouched by what is seen. It's this witnessing that gives you the power to choose not to entangle with and get pulled into these vortices or vortexes of thought. Stepping into the position of the detached witness creates space. And in that space, manifestation has more space to move faster because you're not continuing to tangle with and elaborate on or continue to contribute to the old story. This keeps your energy from becoming trapped in that old groove, right? You want to start creating your reality consciously and deliberately rather than by accident or habit. And once you get used to it, being present in the moment is the most natural thing you can do. Most of us don't do it because we're not choosing to, right? First of all, we might not be aware that we have a choice. And then we don't know how to choose to, right? We're stuck in some sort of default setting. So let's shift that setting so you can take over and choose consciously what is best for you. And you will know what is best for you once you put your awareness in the present moment and what's going on in your internal realm. Now, of course, sometimes the external realm is mirroring us and telling us things that we need to know. And other times your guides or other people in your life are communicating with you through the outside world, and that's important to acknowledge and recognize. But most of what you need to know in any given moment is something that is happening inside of you. It's trying to get your attention, and it will keep trying to get your attention until you put that attention on the inner signals. So what are the other benefits of practicing watching the mind from the witness perspective? The subtle inner signals that let you know what your highest path is, they start to become more obvious, and the voice of your intuition becomes louder and easier to hear. While normally the mind is constantly moving and it's pretty much all you can hear, and intuition speaks really softly. They call it the still small voice. With a detachment and witnessing practice, you can start to widen the gaps between your thoughts. Those pauses in between your thoughts get wider, and those gaps are where your intuition tends to bubble up and slip past your awareness, but hopefully more frequently into your awareness, right? You might have a vision or hear a whisper or a subtle knowing arises from that space. Just after you take a nice deep conscious breath or otherwise move to shift the mind's movement, you can also create these pre-planned responses, which you can call up when your mind is really giving you a lot of trouble. These interventions and interruptions in the mind's flow, they widen those gaps and offer the voice of your intuition more space that it can flow through and move more freely. Because previously it was really quiet and often gentle, and we were overriding it with our regular thoughts. Now that we're becoming more adept at slowing down and redirecting the mind's constant movement, we can notice it more frequently as it arises and begin to take note and echo it and repeat it when we hear it. So let's recap a little bit. Manifestation becomes more rapid when you learn to calm the mind's noise, not engage with or encourage the conversations to continue. But you won't be able to do that if you have not started to discipline the mind and train the mind. Because while you might be able to divert its flow initially, it'll usually snap back or revert back as soon as you stop paying attention or look away, right? Manifestation becomes quicker when you learn to listen for the whispers of intuition and learn to recognize their quality and tone, because they do have a different quality or unique quality than your regular thoughts. They sound different. They come upon you in a different way. And then you can hear the purity and truth of their messages and start taking them into greater consideration. Manifestation becomes faster when you learn to stay in a firm stance of trust and certainty. Even if the exterior 3D reality is showing you the same old patterns and the same old things, you discipline yourself to not allow the mind to flood your thoughts with doubts and insecurities and stories and fears of, well, this will never work, and it's not working, and nothing ever changes, and I'll never make it, and it's not possible, etc. and so on, right? Instead, you stay in the calm knowing state, telling yourself the new story, no matter what. You stick with it. What's happening out there doesn't matter. In here, where it matters most, I have everything. It's already done. Abhinavagupta said, the mind, when stilled by awareness, becomes the gateway to supreme power. And that's true. Sri Yukteswar said, pain and pleasure are transitory. Endure all qualities and dualities with calmness, while trying at the same time to remove their hold, right? Detaching. Imagination is the door through which disease as well as healing enters. I also found this other lovely quote from him. In shallow men, the fish of little thoughts cause much commotion. In oceanic minds, the whales of inspiration make hardly a ruffle. And from Rumi, try to become the moon in the sky of your mind, still and radiant and not pulled by every wind. And Baba Muktananda said, the mind is a tool. It is not the self. Let it serve you, not enslave you. These are not just poetic metaphors. These are deep teachings and profound and wise instructions. They implore us to train the mind to think less and listen more, and how to act from recollection and resonance, not reaction. So here's how you integrate this into your daily life. In the morning when you sit to meditate, because you're doing that every morning now, right? Or you journal, right? Or if you're journaling in the morning with your water or coffee or tea or whatever, before you even touch your phone, you're going to direct your mind. Today, I'm watching my mind. Maybe you even put a note by your bedside table or a special screen image or something on your phone that reminds you, right? We can use technology to our advantage by setting multiple alarms throughout your day, which prompt you to catch and report, what is your mind doing? What are you thinking about, right? Where are you allowing your mind to just run off into a reality that you don't want to live in? And throughout your day, you can catch the thoughts that don't serve your vision. You can pause and breathe and say, stop, rewind, choose again, choose wisely, choose consciously. What do I prefer to focus on and think about? And then in the evening, you can step back and reflect, right? Or a journal. Where did my mind take me today? Where did I follow it? Did it get me in trouble? Did it take me to heaven or hell or trap me in some purgatory in between? Did I get lost in the story or the drama? Ask yourself, what thought patterns are keeping you tied to the past and things you no longer want? And what thought patterns, belief systems, and habitual ways of interpreting things are costing you the future that you deeply desire? Manifestation isn't magic. It's a spiritual practice, a science, and like so many other things, something to practice and master. And what are we mastering? We're mastering our attention, and more importantly, self-directed and self-disciplined selective attention, right? Because that's what we're doing. We're recognizing the patterns and then becoming more consistently able to let the old story go. We're redirecting ourselves away from it and not allowing it to plant seeds of doubt that drag you down before the new story has a chance to take root. And it will also help you tremendously if you're able to cultivate a more lighthearted and fun relationship with both your mind and external reality, okay? Make your mind your friend. Don't argue and fight and get all upset about what your mind is doing, okay? When you start to discipline it, it becomes a faithful, encouraging, and supportive friend. It really does. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present and willing to put forth increasingly consistent effort. This is how you manifest faster, okay? Identify the grooves you fall into and patterns you tend to repeat. You establish a new and different, more detached relationship with these mental patterns. You choose again and again to redirect your thoughts or detach from them altogether. And unburden yourself and move more quickly and readily and freely into a new, lighter, happier, more satisfying pattern. Your heart and your soul want this for you. So be ruthless and relentless in your pursuit of discovering, recognizing, and identifying the old patterns, and then freeing and detaching yourself and your world from them. And then watch what happens. I think you'll be happy. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time.